What's up, guys? Leaf Green Goblin here, coming at you with another video. It's been a while. Different setup, not much better. I'm not looking much better. I'm a little scruffy, please mind that. That's why I got the Jigglypuff in the back to kind of show how I'm feeling right now. I'm a little sleepy. This is coming at you late. Different swag this time around. I got a Yeti mic, thanks to my lady. I'm on StreamYard, and we'll see how this goes. You might see some editing in this video. I don't know what she's gonna do with it, but hope you guys enjoy that. Anyways, kind of a quick update on my life. I've been applying to jobs and I'm trying to switch careers right now. I'm still working. Okay. I'm not, I know you see in the robe, you think I'm being a bum at home, but I promise I'm trying to grind here, and I still wanted to put some videos out, and you should expect some videos to come out in the future. I'm going to try and look in the camera every once in a while. Today, I'm going to be talking about condition rarity, and I'm kind of going to be going all over the place. My hope is to get some of these thoughts off my chest. And on top of that, if you're kind of swaying or you're kind of on one side or the other, where you're someone who's like, I don't care about condition, just give me the card. Maybe you can be like, oh, I can see why somebody wants a minty card. And if you're on the other side and you're like, mint or bust, it's got to be the cleanest card and it's got to be the best grades, then maybe I can talk you down on that and see the other side of card conditions when collecting. I'll try to start positive here. And one thing I do like about the Pokemon community when it comes to condition rarity and just condition in general is I don't see as much negativity as maybe I once saw a couple of years ago during the boom. And, an example of that is when I go on Reddit and I see somebody posting like a binder collection, and it's very obviously, the cards are kind of beat up. The first comments are, oh man, if they were only a little cleaner, or, oh man, imagine if these were PSA 10s. A lot of people are appreciating the cards for what they are. And I do think that's pretty nice, and kind of shows that the card itself has value. And I think sometimes people get a little caught up in the condition rarity, and not necessarily the rarity itself, sometimes just the condition. And I guess I can jump right onto that, is the difference between a condition and the rarity and how that affects my collection, for example. I do care about minty cards for the most part, but mostly near mint. So I would say near minty. I do respect PSA 10s. I have some in my collection, but sometimes where it doesn't make sense for me when I see a lot of people collecting PSA 10s is when the rarity is not there, when the pops are overblown, and the pull rate might be high, but they're very available to get. It doesn't make sense why people are paying. I'll throw out a card out there, the Giratina alt art from Lost Origin. I really want that card in near mint. Get on TCG Player, you're probably getting a PSA 9. You might get a PSA 10. It might be like one out of every, who knows, 5. You might get lucky. I don't really know. I don't really want to get into those kind of numbers, but that card goes for about 280, 300 and now raw. If you want to buy the PSA 10, it's come down now, but you're still probably paying about double. And to me, that just doesn't make sense. If there's a lot of available raw in clean condition, why are you going to get the 10? That doesn't make sense to me. But as you'll see later on in this video, I'm going to be jumping back and forth a lot. I'm going to be describing, kind of defending maybe why you'd want a 10 of that Giratina and why lower graded cards is the move sometimes. Again, I will be jumping all over the place here. Sorry, this is a rant. That's what I'm putting in. That's what I put in the title. One thing that I would say negative, or something I kind of dislike in when it comes to condition talk, is this idea that, oh, that's a good binder copy. You can have clean binders. Let's get away from this. If it's clean, you got to put it in a slab. If it's clean, flip it and go get a worse grade. I think part of the reason why people think this way is because, at least in my opinion, people might have too much fear when it comes to binders. I think they've seen over the years, maybe people be like, oh, I found my old binder of Shadowless in the attic, and these cards are practically laminated. I think it's an overblown fear. And here, like, I can give you an example, because I am mostly a binder collector. I got this Ultra Pro binder. It's about, I think, $35. It's got a zipper. This is my more expensive binder. I'm collecting the EXs. You get the side loader binder, so you're not just like cramming them in. You just slide them in. I've had this binder now for a couple months. I have some other binders. Maybe that would have been a better example. But while I was showing the close-up here, when I switch around cards in different binders, I'm not seeing dirt. I'm not seeing this dust collection and all this, stuff that people are talking about that you throw in a card that is a PSA 8, in a couple of years it'll be a PSA 6 because the dust gets in there and it gets trapped and it ruins the card. I'm sure there's examples like that, but to be honest, I find that most of those kind of complaints, it's coming from the person. I've seen people talk about slabs and are worried about sun damage, which is a real thing when it comes to slabs. I know people that get scared when the card kind of slightly jiggles in the slab, and you see there's some videos out there where somebody puts it in like a I don't know what the machine is called, but they basically it's just a vibrator and it vibrated very fast and be like, oh, see, it can get destroyed if it's loose in the slab.
Boy,
if you're that worried. And that's sometimes how I feel when I see people who only have PSA 10s. It's really bordering on OCD, and it's a little weird. I mean, I'm kind of coming off as a hater here, but I hope you guys get my point with that. If someone's always chasing the highest grade and they're worried about stuff like binders ruining their cards, and I know people who think putting $100 card in a binder is crazy. That doesn't make much sense to me. If you're responsible, you're not putting it in, maybe if you live in Florida or somewhere humid, that could be an issue. I haven't really looked at all those types of potential risks of, house or climate or sun damaging your cards. But I think for the most part, people kind of overrate that a little bit. Kind of going against that when it comes to condition, and there's nothing wrong with keeping clean cards in binders. There's also nothing wrong with also having expensive cards in slabs. I do understand the value of that, protecting that. Here's, me jumping on the other side, kind of going against people who spend a lot of money on cards that are really beat up, but then for cheaper cards, because they can afford it, they get the 10. That always doesn't make much sense to me. Sometimes that TCG player on eBay, I see a card for near mint, let's say it's going for $200, and I'm seeing people buying beat up copies, scratch copies for like 110, 120. And that just doesn't make much sense to me because you're still spending $120. I don't understand why you would spend that kind of money already for a card that's beat up. If you really care enough about that card to spend $120 in this specific example, why not save up a little to get the mintier card? On the other side, if you're doing that, then why would you go buy like a PSA 10 of a cheaper card because you can afford it when you can get a much cheaper card in raw that's just as clean because they're very available? So I guess, since I'm jumping all over the place and I don't want to forget to give some examples. Actually, you know what? I can throw all these at the end. That'll be a nice little like slideshow of all the cards. Kind of understand where I'm coming from here. Jumping on to another little segment here. Let's say you're not into grading and you are curious about the certain kind of grades. Kind of get a rundown of what you can expect from each grade. To go through a quick run through. The PSA 10, honestly, you might get one bad corner. Most of the time it's mint. I've seen some bad centering, but that's about it. The reason why you'll see a lot on the internet and people talking about why PSA 9 is a sweet spot compared to other grades, because, for example, me in my near mint binder that you see there, most of them are PSA 8s, PSA 7s, or just TCG Player, eBay Raw that I put in there, is because PSA 9, all the 9s that I own, I have not noticed any scratches on the hollow. And for me, and obviously a lot of collectors, that's a big deal. I can handle, and I think a lot of collectors, they can handle one white spot on a corner, or maybe a scratch or a chip on the edges. It's when you start getting like the 8s, especially the 7s, but even clean 8s, I will see some minor scratching on the hollow or the surface. So that's why I think a lot of people think that the 9 is a sweet spot if you're trying to collect older cards. And I think that's why sometimes the 10 you see some people hating on people get 10s, like, oh, are you just trying to buy it for the label? You're spending exorbitantly more money on that card because it has just a cleaner edge. Why are you doing that when you can just get the 9 and it's pretty much the same exact card, but there might be literally sometimes it is one dot on a corner, or it's the centering, where it's a completely clean card and just in the printer on the back, it's an uneven printing. Well, I can defend that. For the 10, sometimes having the mintiest card, if you really care about it, there's value to that. And I've talked about that in some of the lives with Athletes and Antiquities. You can check that out, check his channel out. He's a good guy. I'll give you a great example of this. I know I said I was going to do the slideshow like 2 minutes ago, but I'm going to use some examples. This is a PSA 10 Hidden Fates Charizard here. And I have the other Hidden Fates cards in Near Mint Raw in my binder. I do not have them in 9s. I do not have them in any slab. I actually want to collect them in the binder. The reason why I got it the Charizard in the 10, it's not because Charizard is my favorite Pokemon or my favorite shiny, even though I do love the shiny a lot. It's because it reminds me of when I really started, taking collecting more seriously in Pokemon around 2019, like halfway through Sun and Moon. And that's when I really started checking the set lists and pretty much watching YouTube, PokeTubers, and not thinking about investing, but caring about the value and such. So eventually I did get the 10. And for me, that's the value. It's not that the 9 is cheaper and it's a better value, sure. But that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for the cleanest card possible, for a card that, when I look back, there's a lot of cards that I like more than this, this said Charizard, but it doesn't define how I'm collecting in this hobby or just kind of my collecting history as much as maybe this specific card. But then in the defense of the 9s, I'll have another one for you guys. This is the Dialga. It's a Japanese one. I think it's an XY. I love this card. I got it in Japanese because I hear that Japanese printing is better, or the quality is better. Sometimes I think that's a little overblown, but this card specifically, I remember this kind of pattern right here, it's different in English than Japanese, and I like the Japanese one more. The 10 is like a K or a little bit over that sometimes. This card I got it for about less than a third of that price. For this card, the value of this card is I want this in a standalone slab. It doesn't really fit with my other binder cards. I really like it enough to display it by itself. I'll get the 9. I don't want to get the 8 because I've looked up some 8s and I've seen the scratches on the hollow. On these other cards, if there's a scratch on the hollow, that's okay. I'm going more for the art. I'll be honest with this card. I'm doing a lot of this. I'm doing a lot of the look at it, ooh, shiny. So I notice the scratches a lot more. So you can see here, like I'm jumping back and forth, but in grades, purchases, topics, whatever. But you can see that there is a kind of a thought behind my purchases, and that's what I hope that you guys do with all your purchases. Is that as long as there's some meaning behind your collection, collection identity. I talk about it. It's a good guideline, so you're not getting into the FOMO and just kind of overspending on cards that you might not care about down the line. As long as each purchase you're thinking, okay, why am I buying this? Besides just it's a cool card and I can afford it, you'll be fine down the line. Going back to the can you afford it thing, that's my problem sometimes with the 10, is that there's people who are buying 10s because they can afford it, but is it really a good deal? Trainer art gallery cards. I don't understand why you wouldn't just, when I see someone have a 10, I don't always judge them because, like I said, a specific trainer art gallery card for them could be this Charizard, for example. You never know. It might be a card that it's one of their first cards that they got in the hobby. They started collecting recently. They want the perfect version, or the perfect condition. But why wouldn't you just throw all those in at like $2 to $3? I know some are more expensive, but generally speaking, they're pretty cheap. Why not just throw those all on a binder and have like a nice binder collection? But instead, I see a bunch of people on it's mainly Reddit, mainly newer collectors, not always, but they're spending like $50, $60, $40, $30 on these 10s, and they're trying to collect all the trainer art galleries. And you can just go on TCG Player and you'll get a clean copy. It might not be a 10, the centering might be off, but it is mint. It's near mint quality. I mean, near mint is 7, and 7 has chips, and I should have had I cracked all my 7s, unfortunately. So I don't have an example for you guys, but when you look at some PSA 7s or CGC 7s, you start realizing that just going on TCG Player on eBay and getting a brand new raw card from one of the latest sets, it's more than near mint, in my opinion. So those kind of things about just because you can afford it, should you get it? That's a problem, I think, sometimes with condition. Just because you can afford a 10 doesn't mean you should go get it. But at the same time, if you're trying to save money, doesn't mean you should go spend, like I said, that analogy about the $200 card near mint, buying the 120 beat up card. You shouldn't just go buy that card because, well, I can't afford the $200 one. I'm going to buy the 121. And then a year or two later, you got more money and be like, well, now I got to get rid of this beat up $120 copy. So that's some of the thoughts I have with some of these condition rarity things. And I'm sure I have a lot more thoughts, but I kind of want to give you guys some example of like 10s and 9s and 8s and what you guys can expect or how I collect them. So, for example, I have these 2 Dragonites from the Japanese Neo, and I like displaying them next to each other. I have no plans of collecting all the Neos in binders or in slabs. These were like, I think this was like, one of them was 40, one of them was 60. And I think the 10s go for quadruple the price, $200-$300. Now, can I afford that? Yeah. Is it worth it for me? No, it's not. Because as much as I love Dragonite, and I do like these cards enough to obviously get them slabbed and get them in a higher grade. I could have got these in PSA 7, like you see in my EX binder. Some are 8s, some are 7s, whatever. I could have got these in a 7 and cracked them for a binder. But for me, the optimum way for my collection, for these to fit in my collection, is to be a pair of 9s and then just displaying them next to each other. But then flip-flop into some 10s. Versus series is, if you guys don't know, it's an exclusive Japanese set that didn't come to America because Wizards of the Coast was worried it'd be broken because all the cards were basics. So like you couldn't look it up. I think I explained it enough. But anyways, I have the Suicune and I have the Raikou, and I'm trying to get the Entei. They're pretty available. I'm still trying to get a good price, and I'm in Norwich to get them. But I got these in 10s just because I wanted 3 10s. Could I gotten 3 9s? Sure, but I love these cards more than the Dragonite, and I think part of it, honestly, because this is one of my favorite cards. This Suicune, not so much. I don't know why. I think it's because blue and red. The fashion guy in me, blue and red, just as a combo is not my favorite. But I love the Rockets Raikou, the Rockets Suicune, just the Rocket dude in the back. I love these kind of like cards like that. I have this card in my EX binder. This is one of my favorite cards. Sandstorm Typhlosion. I just love the lava red, the blood red, whatever. And I do kind of like the chunky, like 3D, kind of poorly done graphics. At least some would say. I actually do love this. And there's a swirl by the mouth. But anyways, I got this in a 10 and in Japanese because this is the first Typhlosion ever released by EX. I don't think that many people care about that. I care about that. I really like that. I have one in my EX collection binder. I'm probably going to get another one from my Typhlosion Cyndaquil Quilava binder.
Daddy, chill.
And probably a lower, maybe like a match moderately played, since I already have a mint copy, another mint copy, or near mint copy. So now this is kind of where going back. Maybe I'm kind of contradicting myself. This card, you can get it for like raw mint, like $19. I got this for $50 because I didn't want this random card in a binder. It doesn't really fit with a lot of my binder collection goals. I love how this card looks just as a standalone card as display. So I got it for $50. Now, if I did this 20, 30 times, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where people think like they're saving money by getting lower graded or lower condition expensive cards, but then they kind of contradict themselves by going to buy several cheaper cards at max condition 10s. So, I kind of realize there's a lot of people that, I'm in a few Discords and in a few Reddit threads, whatever. And I notice not a lot of people collect 8s, and I don't know why. I crack 8s for the binder because, at least for the stuff that I'm collecting, a lot of times it goes cheaper than the raw. That's why sometimes I used to collect raw. I still do. But sometimes if the raw is being valued as if, oh, this is near mint, it can be, it could be a 9. It could be a 10 if you grade it. You never know. Then I just go get the 8, because sometimes you'll get, I'm sure you guys all know this. You go on eBay, you get a raw card It looks clean. It comes back. There's one little crease on the back or little dent. And while you may not care about the value, you bought it just for your collection, paying PSA 8 prices or whatever and getting a card for that's probably a PSA 5, that still kind of sucks, because then you might as well could have gotten a PSA 5 and crack. You see what I'm saying? So here's some PSA 8s, just kind of give you guys an idea. I wouldn't say these are overtly or extremely clean. This is like the standard that you'll get in an 8. Some great cards here. Hariyama not so much, but I do like this Wailord. Here are the backs. As you can see, there's some white here, some white some white edging. Oh, that sounded a little weird. Pause. White edging. Anyways, so I hope some of those cards that you saw kind of gives you an idea of how I'm collecting my how I go about the 8s, the 9s, and whatnot. Maybe you guys are curious about how I feel about grades and more expensive cards. Again, it kind of depends on what you can afford, I guess. But just because you can afford it doesn't mean it's the right price for you. I have a card. I forgot to pull it out, but it's a PSA 10 of a pretty expensive card. It's a set card, and I could have gotten the 9. Probably should have gotten the 9, but it's kind of defines one of my favorite Pokemon memories. Aww. So I got it in a 10. It's a gold star. It's a Japanese gold star Latios, and I got it in a 10. Am I planning on collecting all the gold stars? No, I'm not. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm not getting all 10s, because not all the other gold stars speak to me as much as like this Latios does. Now, if I wanted a binder collection of the gold stars, maybe I would just go raw, save some money, not care about the back because they're very expensive. But do I think that gold stars could go up in value someday? Maybe. So I do spend a little bit more on the higher grades when I could just get an 8. So that's definitely something I guess I don't think I've mentioned yet, is that even as a collector, you might buy something or you see something that you really want for your collection, but in the back of your head, you're thinking, I feel like this is a little underrated. It might have a future to grow in value over time. I do have the money for the 9. It's kind of the best of both worlds for the 9 or the 10, excuse me. I do really want this card. I'm getting the cleaner condition card, which is what I want. And on top of that, I guess I'm putting myself in better position for value growing over time. But that's kind of a different discussion for another time, because I would say there's a lot of 10s that kind of ran up on value, and it's maybe not the best idea to get that 10, because anyways, like I said, it's a discussion for a different time, and then I started talking about it.
This guy stinks!
I think that concludes this video. I'm probably going to look back on this and be like, man, there's a lot of stuff I missed out on talking about, but it has been 25 minutes. If you guys enjoyed, like, comments, whatever, share. I don't know don't share this because I'm not looking my best here, but hope everyone's doing well. If you guys have any comments, please share what you guys think about what I had to say and kind of your experiences with condition rarity or just conditions in general, and how much does that factor into your collection? Is it just give me the cards? I want the cards as long as they're fine. The backs could be beat up. I just want to throw it in a binder. Or are you someone who's like, I want them in a slab, but I don't care if it's a 6. It can be a 7 or a 5 or an 8 or 9. Doesn't matter. Let me know, guys. Peace out.